Excellent. Craig, there's something I think is going to come up, and you're the expert that can deal with this, okay? There are burial boxes. There are two that are mentioned, at least, in James Tabor's book. And because of your expertise in both the archaeological area as well as ancient manuscripts and so on, let me ask you about two things. There's a burial box that's inscribed James, the brother of Jesus, that he thinks he's got. You've got another ossuary, another bone box, that's got, supposedly, Jesus, son of Joseph. Okay? Well, obviously, if you've got the Jesus of the Bible, son of Joseph, in a bone box, Christianity collapses. Okay? Now, there's all kinds of problems with this hypothesis. Share some of those as you see it.
Well, as you know, I've done some research over the years in this whole area of Jewish burial traditions, and a few years ago published a book called Jesus and the Ossuaries. And I do deal with most of these very bone boxes with those inscriptions that you've just mentioned. One of the things I've learned along the way is out of the 1,000 or so ossuaries that we have cataloged, only about 240 of them have inscriptions. Now, when you take into account how many hundreds of thousands of Jewish people lived in the first century, we have the tiniest fraction represented in these ossuaries. Then when you take into account how many men were named Jacob, or James as we bring it into English sometimes, and named Yeshua, or Jesus, and how many are named Joseph, I think you get the point. We have a tiny sampling of this huge population over this period of time. How do we know that the ossuaries that we do have match certain persons in the New Testament? I don't even, everybody's heard of the Caiaphas ossuary. After doing careful research on the way that inscription is made and vocalized the way it should be pronounced, I have serious doubts that that really is the ossuary of the high priest Caiaphas. I'd like it to be. That would be fun. But, and even apart from all the controversy about the James bone box, and, did the owner tamper with the inscription? Is it perhaps a hoax or whatever? Even apart from all that, if we were to accept the inscription as it stands, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, we have not settled the question of identity. It still could be referring to some other family. So that's my point. I'm not going to develop an hypothesis about who Jesus really was. I'm not going to create a Jesus dynasty out of some bone boxes with some names that happen to be very common names in this period of time. That's very, very thin ice, and I'm not going to skate on it.
Yeah, I mean, a statistical count shows that Joseph is what? The second most used name?
Exactly, and that's the problem. And so I think I appreciate the fact that Dr. Tabor talks about the archaeological evidence. He is certainly better informed about such things than people like Dan Brown or Michael Bajan. So there's a lot of useful, interesting material in his book. I just have a problem with the way he connects the dots. And I think he's creating a picture that ultimately the evidence cannot sustain.